The government is spending more than £9 million on leaflets in a last-ditch attempt to convince British citizens to stay in the EU. It's just a week before the official campaign kicks off to decide the UK's membership in the Union. Laura Smith reports.
Started with this booklet, which is going to be delivered through the doors of every household in the UK in the next couple of weeks. Pretty sober cover, some colour photographs just to keep you interested, and it contains pretty much what you would expect. David Cameron telling you that leaving the European Union is going to be risky. That is not the most interesting thing about this booklet, though. 27 million copies are being printed out, and it is going to cost the taxpayer, of course, £9.3 million. Loads of people are saying that that's completely unfair, that taxpayer money shouldn't be used to promote the government's stance on European Union issues. David Cameron himself, though, is completely unapologetic.
I think that is money well spent. It is not, in my view, just legal. It is necessary and right.
Well, it may be legal, but Leave campaigners are calling this an appalling waste of money. They're saying that some polls show that the majority of Britons want to leave the European Union. So to spend their money on what is essentially pro-EU propaganda, as far as they're concerned, is completely inexcusable. And of course, then there's always the elephant in the room of austerity. What could this £9.3 million have been better spent on? And there's so much discontent about it that there's in fact already a petition up on the Parliament website. Stop Cameron spending taxpayer money on pro-EU referendum leaflets, and it's already attracted tens of thousands of signatures. This is not David Cameron's first bit of pro-EU campaigning, and it probably won't be his last, in what's being dubbed Project Fear. There's a raft of headlines already sort of created by Cameron talking about job losses, rising prices. Most recently, Cameron called leaving the EU an act of self-harm.
And more still ahead for you in the program, including an 11-year-old Iraqi boy reveals details of what he had to endure while being held in an ISIL prison for children for 8 months.
As you can see for yourself, the places it's been through hell. The artillery barrages that hit this place, they were powerful.
And the ceasefire between Azerbaijan and ethnic Armenians enters its third day amid renewed international efforts to prevent new violence. Voters in the Netherlands have overwhelmingly rejected the partnership treaty between the EU and Ukraine. In a nationwide referendum, more than 60% said no to the deal, while only 38% voted in favor. The results will be officially confirmed on April the 12th. The No campaigners celebrated at their headquarters as the preliminary results were announced. The referendum was kick-started by a petition which last year got over 450,000 signatures. Under Dutch law, the government has to set a public vote on an issue if a petition gets over 300,000 requests. In the referendum, Dutch citizens were asked whether Europe should forge closer political and economic ties with Ukraine, removing trade barriers and paving the way for visa-free travel. To come into effect, the pact needed to be ratified by all EU member states, with the Netherlands having the final say. But Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said if the victory for the No camp is confirmed, the agreement can't go ahead. And we heard from some No campaigners right after the results were announced.
Do you think that the government has a moral obligation to listen to what the people are actually saying with this referendum? You know, a lot of people are concerned about what is happening in Ukraine, and they don't want to have that type of thing happen here.
Ukraine is bankrupted. It's going to cost us billions of dollars, billions of tax dollars.
I think we should stop thinking that we always know better, and I think we should stop thinking that we can push everybody in a democracy we think is the best. Change should come from the inside.
The Ukrainian president has already commented on the referendum's results, calling it an attack on European democracy. RT's Peter Oliver asked Dutch voters what they thought about this reaction.
Well, the lion's share of votes went to the no campaign in the Dutch referendum on whether to have closer ties with Ukraine. More importantly, perhaps, the turnout for the referendum passed 30%. That means that Parliament has to take it as legitimate. It was a non-binding referendum, though, so that means that the big decisions now will fall to Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. He said he was going to think very long and very hard about whether to proceed as he had planned and ratify the agreement anyway, or whether he'll listen to the Dutch people and employ the Netherlands' veto as a member of the European Union. One politician, though, who has made his point very clear already is Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. He referred to the referendum as an attack on European values and said, despite what voters had said here, that it would be no hindrance towards his country developing closer ties with the European Union.
I would like to remind everyone that the association agreement between Ukraine and the EU was not the genuine goal of the organisers of this referendum. It's an attack on European unity, an attack on European values. I am sure that strategically this event is not an obstacle on Ukraine's path towards Europe.
Well, I asked voters here on the streets of Haarlem what they made of the Ukrainian president's comments.
It's the opinion of our people, and they should at least discuss about this to be able to see what's happening and what they can change maybe in the resolution.
The Dutch make their choice, so he shouldn't interfere.
Well, I don't think by saying so that he doesn't respect the outcome.
Holland is just one of the 28 countries in the European Union, so he's got a point there. You know, the majority wants it, so I think they should go for it.
Because it's 30% of the people, and and they vote against it, and well, you can't. How do you say that? Ignore it. You can't.
Well, it was a resounding no at the ballot box for this closer association agreement with Ukraine. However, it does seem that the political wranglings will continue at least for a few weeks to come. Reporting from the Netherlands for RT, I'm Peter Oliver.
Now, there have already been numerous attempts to get the Dutch to vote in favor of an agreement. However, a Dutch MP said the views of his countrymen must be respected.
This referendum does not belong to anybody except the Dutch citizens. There are people who took the initiative. There's a broad spectrum of people who took the initiative. Every citizen in Europe is entitled to say whatever he wants. The problem is that we have too many powers nowadays in Europe who intervene in the internal matters of other countries. Whether it is the European Union, it's Russia, it's the United States. So we should pay more respect to the national sovereignty, and in this case the sovereignty of the Dutch citizens to decide.
You're watching RT International, and more news will be coming your way after the break.